We begin with the latest from the Indian subcontinent. Pakistan's military claims to have killed at least 70 militants in cross-border strikes across Afghanistan on February the 22nd. Islamabad claims it targeted militant hideouts linked to the Pakistani Taliban and affiliates of the Islamic State group. Pakistan claims dozens of militants were killed. Afghanistan's Taliban government says civilians, including women and children, have died in the strikes. Kabul has warned that it will retaliate in due course.
The Ministry of National Defense considers the protection of the country's airspace and the security of its people to be its religious and national responsibility, and warns that at an appropriate time it will deliver an appropriate and calculated response, inshallah. Attacks on civilian targets and religious centers are clear evidence of the Pakistani Army's intelligence and security failures, and such repeated aggressions will never conceal their internal failures.
Well, these strikes mark a sharp escalation in tension between the two neighbours who share a porous 2,400-kilometre border, a frontier the Taliban government in Kabul does not formally recognise, arguing it's a colonial-era line that split Pashtun tribes across both sides. Islamabad claims it acted after a string of suicide bombings inside Pakistan, including a deadly mosque attack in the capital that killed more than 30 people. Pakistan accuses militants of operating from Afghan territory. The Taliban government denies this. It says it does not allow Afghan soil to be used against any country. Meanwhile, India has issued a strong condemnation of Pakistan's airstrikes on Afghan soil.
India strongly condemns Pakistan's airstrikes on Afghan territory that have resulted in civilian casualties, including women and children, during the holy month of Ramzan. It is another attempt by Pakistan to externalize its internal failures. India reiterates its support for Afghanistan's sovereignty, territorial integrity, and independence.
And there's a wider context. For years, India has called out Pakistan for harbouring terror groups that launch cross-border attacks. Now, Pakistan is accusing Afghanistan of doing exactly that, providing safe haven to militants targeting its territory. Well, the relationship between Islamabad and Kabul has deteriorated steadily over the past year. Border clashes have killed scores of people. Trade routes have been disrupted. Mediation efforts by countries like Qatar, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia have failed to produce lasting stability. And yet it wasn't always like this. In August 2021, when the Taliban stormed back to power after the exit of US forces, Pakistan appeared pleased. In fact, one image defined that moment. At the lobby of a luxury hotel in Kabul, Pakistan's then intelligence chief, Lieutenant General Faiz Hamid, was photographed calmly sipping coffee as Kabul fell to the Taliban. Many in Pakistan called it victory coffee. Well, at the time, Islamabad was seen as one of the first to engage the new Taliban leadership. But more than 4 years later, that apparent comfort has turned into airstrikes, accusations, and threats of retaliation. Well, the question now is whether this escalation remains limited or whether the fragile Pakistan-Afghanistan equation spirals into something far more dangerous. Well, for more on this, we have with us Tilak Devasher. He's an author and a former member of India's National Security Advisory Board, joining us live now from New Delhi. Welcome to the program. So let me ask you first, if I may, what do you believe is the core issue between this latest flare-up?
You know, the latest, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. The latest flare-up is just the immediate, what you see on the surface. There are structural issues between Pakistan and Afghanistan, and that are not going to be resolved in a hurry. And unless and until that issue is resolved, you will continue to have issues like the one that we've seen happen yesterday, or where Pakistan resorted to aerial bombing. Pakistan is, in effect, externalizing its problems, which it can't handle, both in Balochistan and in the province of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Despite such a strong military presence and a large army, it is not able to deal with the issue of terrorism of the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. And therefore, it finds it convenient to blame Afghanistan for its problems. Now, Afghanistan is not going to interfere. Afghanistan has made it very clear that these are Pakistani nationals staying in Pakistan. So the Pakistan army has to tackle the problem within Pakistan rather than externalizing it to Afghanistan.
Right, so given what you say then, let me just jump in there if I may. Given what you say, what would actually need to happen to stabilize the situation?
I think Pakistan needs to genuinely talk to the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, the people who are Pakistani nationals. See what their grouse is, what was it that they want, and try and tackle it at the political level. You see, Turkey as well as Qatar have tried to mediate between the Tehreek-e-Taliban, between the Afghan Taliban and Pakistan, but no agreement could be reached. And one reason for that was Taliban told Pakistan that just as you are asking us not to provide routes and sanctuary to the TTP, we are asking you to ensure that your territory is not used for attacks on Afghanistan. The reference was to the US drones. Pakistan clearly refused. They said that we have an agreement with the United States and we cannot stop that. Our airspace is being used. The Taliban said, then what are we talking about? So Pakistan needs to get its act together. It can't ask the Taliban to do something which itself it is not willing to do for the Taliban, that is, not allow its territory to be used against the Taliban. That's the simple, what is the immediate cause. But the most structural cause, which I mentioned earlier, was of the Durand Line, the line drawn by the British, which the Afghans have not accepted since 1949. They don't think that it is an international border. And unless and until Pakistan and Afghanistan resolve that core issue, such problems are going to continue between Afghanistan and Pakistan.
So how do you see this playing out then in the coming days and months?
You see, the Afghans will retaliate. They may not retaliate tomorrow, they may not retaliate in a month, they may not even retaliate in a year's time. But the Pashtuns have long memories. There's a saying that a Pashtun took revenge after 100 years and said he took it too soon. So the Afghans will play a waiting game. They know they are weak. They don't have any air defense systems, they have no air force. So they will wait till time when they are stronger and they are in a position to hit back at Pakistan. And hit back at Pakistan, they will certainly do.
We'll leave it there. Tilak Davashir, thank you very much indeed for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Power doesn't end quietly. Some deaths are not accidents. They are messages. A gunshot. A crowd. A country frozen. The killer disappears. The questions don't. This is not just about who died. It's about what followed. Governments fell. Armies moved. History rewrote itself. 5 leaders. 5 moments. One pattern. The assassination.